A perfect example is this young gentleman that we're working with right now. His name is Max Gilardi. Some of you guys might know the crazy My Little Pony, Ren and Stimpy based art comedy things that he does, whatever he calls it, .mov, so like party.mov, shack.mov. And he gets, and he right now is almost at the 1 billion views with YouTube. All this stuff is, none of it's his IP. He just took something and he did it for fun. And when we started working with him, the whole concept was keep producing these videos, keep drawing attention to your profile, because now you're a partner where you're going to potentially get some type of advertising back, even though he doesn't care about that at all. His focus is to build an audience. So I said, that's perfect. Now, Nickelodeon has approached us and they want us to develop something for them. But before that, they want us to kind of produce it. So I said, that's even better. Let's just keep it indie. We don't have to worry about them coming in and controlling the entire property, because you want to create what you want to create. I kind of asked this question to them yesterday, and one of the kind of we're talking about in terms of creating what you love based on versus focusing on commercial. So he is kind of like a one-man show. It's flash-based material as opposed to hiring animators and whatnot. So he can create his own episodes, 10, 15-minute episodes. And then we get a crew of folks that we've already been working with on spec to do the voice work. Create his own pilot, put it on YouTube. The audience is already inbuilt. You'll get anywhere from 3 to 5 million views within a week. That's kind of the average he's putting out for everything he shows.
There's interactivity as well.
Exactly, because it can be across the board on something that's original, it's his, and he can completely control it. And then where we take it from there is completely up to him, because he's in complete control of his product. So there's small, there's large, and one aspect of it you really can't control. You might have a series that you create that might have 100,000 views, and you know that is excellent as it is. And then you have something that just goes insane, viral, on everything you put out, no matter whether it's just you standing there looking at a wall or you just putting out material. They just want to consume everything you do.
So let me toss out a corollary to that is there's a question of quality of views as well. Yeah. Like, you know, our total number of views is low, but we make about $1 per view on YouTube off of direct fan contributions. With no advertising.
Direct fan contributions. So are you asking for financial donations?
We have a little video at the end of every episode that kind of appeal, because you think about all the people who got burned, you know, by the cancellations of Firefly, Veronica Mars, and so forth. We essentially evoke that. We say no studio, no network, no cancellation. This show is creator distributed and fan supported. And on the basis of that messaging, which we made publicly available, anyone can use all that thing. We've established the branding. I figure the more we get it out there, the more we train fandom to think of themselves as empowered by the show's going. On the basis of that alone, you know, it tracks pretty well. One view on YouTube turns into $1. So why would we do advertising, which pays for a percentage of the penny and decrease the user experience? And so even though our views comparatively are low, the return is enough.
You have targeted.
It's targeted.
You're building your sustainable audience.
Exactly.
So but that's also based on the period
right.
of time you've been building that audience.
Correct. So you know, it isn't necessarily like the number of views. Obviously, the number helps, especially for being able to then go to a
it's a correlation, especially like with that we can correlate into the social media aspect of what you would want to do based on your projects. Like for example, you know, at one point in time we had, I think, on one of our Twitter sites like over 100,000 followers, and I'm looking at this and I'm trying to understand. All right, this is fantastic, but I'm going through. I'm like, none of these people give a crap about what the hell we're doing. Right. So why? So we started from scratch and tried to focus on target our fans, the people that follow our work,
you have to build a community.
The people we meet at conventions, the industry folk. So now we're down to, I think that one of them is at like 20,900, but they're all targeted. So everything, whatever we put out, every hashtag Gen Con, every hashtag TFH, for every hashtag for whatever we're producing, Knockout now, there's another one I'm working on. They're reading it, they're retweeting it, they're looking at it, and they want to know more. So that's a correlation in terms of building that market. And small or big is kind of a subjective concept, like he said. I mean, you want specific people targeted to your thing.
Yeah, this is if you want to build something where you're sustaining it yourself.
Right.
You want this to be in your complete control, and that's how you want to do it. There's a flip side of the coin, which is I think where I can offer a piece, and that is what happens if you want to take your property to a different, I'm not necessarily saying a higher level, but a different level entirely. A different playing field entirely.
Both.
Which is, you could.
Yeah, you could. Which is what my website is doing. We have it out to a bunch of studios. Who knows if they'll pick it up or not. But you know, at the same time, we're not going to let that stop us. We're not going to let that. We're not going to stop producing content. We're not going to wait for anybody to give us permission.
Right.
Yes. Like what Mercury Men got picked up by Sci-Fi. I mean, it's a web series. Now,
which show did you mention?
Mercury Men.
Right. But have you talked with the creative Mercury Men about their experience with sci-fi?
No.
See, because that's a whole other
That's
story.
right. That was another story, but working with anybody.
Ben, you're right. I want to hear what you're going to say, but I think I have a piggyback to what you're going to say first. So.
I was just going to talk more about what happens when your creative control does get compromised.
Yeah.
But I mean, and what I was saying is that there's nothing wrong with being a creator that wants to keep your own work into your own hands and do the self-distribution and have no cancellations and no worries. That's something that you can do. There is also the flip side to that, which is equally as powerful and equally as fun, which is it is kind of cool when a studio or when a network picks up your product. You do lose a significant amount of control, but you know that your product is going to be playing on television in a way that's different than the web. But for me, when I was in the web series circuit last year, we were here on panels, Ben and I, rocking it out, and I had this web series that I had a different goal in mind. I necessarily wasn't going out to try and find millions of views or concentrated fan-supported views. I know it's vague in general, but just bear with me. I wasn't necessarily going for that. What I was doing is I was going to, like, National Fan Expo in Toronto and New York Comic Con and spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 in these gigantic booths and banners and literally bullshit, setting myself up to look like some big-ass company beside Warner Brothers. And what that did is it just attracted the right people with the right amount of money to look at you and go, well, clearly these guys are indie people and the product doesn't stand up at all to the television network thing according to their standards, but they had a lot of money and they liked the concept. And what it did is that the peacock with the biggest feathers ruffled and they noticed. And upon noticing, that's when we had people approach us. That's when we had who we're working with now approach us and say, okay, so we kind of like the idea. We're not necessarily certain that this idea is good for the demographic that television needs to reach. We were a niche fan base, and if we were going for the fan-supported thing, our niche fan base, if we went that route, we probably would be doing very well right now in that world, which is the fan-supported revenue, people donating their money toward helping the show continue. That was the model we were going for. But the stage that I then had to make the decision to go down was, do I sort of stop that rally and now go toward my show being modified? Because I had guns in it, I had a gun in it, I had some swords and things like that. And the demographic was supposed to be like a preteen kind of, or a tween kind of show. And you can't really have swords in a tween kind of show. You need to go Power Rangers style, where they're using magical powers. And they're not killing anybody, they're just punching them out.
No blood.
No blood, no nothing.
Put upon a robot.
I had a bit of that. I had a demon in the show. And the demon, you can't have a red skin straight from Labyrinth with a lot less budget, pentagram on the chest and horns, but you're going to try and show 12-year-olds. Right? That just doesn't work. So, but they love the concept.
Dead bodies are up.
Yeah, so they look at the concept and they go, the network goes, we really think this concept has something tangible to it. We're going to take it, and we're going to mutate the hell out of it, but it's still your concept.
Medium. That's the thing. You look at it from like, look, if my property gets picked up as a comic book, it's going to be a little different. If it gets picked up as a science fiction novel, if it goes to the studio.
Actually, as a producer, you want to do. It's not either or.
Yeah.
It's like I have this thing. In fact, I'm in negotiation with one of the majors on this documentary I'm doing, and we didn't seek it out. But well, all that they're saying is right. You're building up. You're doing the festival circuit. You're building up your fan base. You're tracking it. One of your major money dollar things is your database is an asset. Okay, and that's how you get the big guys to notice. So when they do notice you, then you go, okay, what am I going to? You're going to give up some control, especially when you're dealing with the majors. One of the first conversations, we were 5 minutes in the conversation. They wanted to take the whole thing over. Well, but we like to reshoot it. And went, no, wait, stop. Okay, and they understand that. They're waiting for you to say stop, because if you don't, they'll just take it over. But then we got in the conversation. Well, okay, you're talking about you want rights for a film. We might give you the film rights, but we're hanging on to the comic book rights, the website. Series, whatever. And so you're saying, how are we going to manage this? How are we going to co-market it? Who's going to pay for that marketing? Okay, if you want the film, that's fine, we'll give you the film, but then you're going to have to market the music CD that we're going to release, and it's going to be part of the marketing film. A lot of people have books, they write books, and then some of you might be writers, and you're writing your books, and you try to publish that or self-publish that, and then you want that sold too, along with the movie. So that's all part of this negotiation. Each one of these is a revenue stream.
No matter what, a entertainment lawyer.
Yes.
Yes.
Now,
keep in mind,
do not do it yourself.
Keep in mind that lawyer usually, like for example, this is a random example before I go back to what I was going to say about this. I had an entertainment lawyer out of Miami, Heidi Kent. Great lady, amazing. You know, she knows what she's doing, but she predominantly has Latin American. She wasn't as good with all the material dealing with, like when WMA wanted to represent me, and she didn't. It was kind of like she was out of her element. If you're going to get an entertainment lawyer, you have to consider your region, where you're working. Are you SAG? Are you AFTRA? Are you AA? Are you free to work state? Are you non-union? Whatnot? All that stuff. You want to make sure you're in the right place. Now, in terms of what he was talking about before, there's a flip side to that coin. And it depends. When it comes to
there are a couple flip sides.
Well,
we're on the dice.
Forget the coin. We're on the 20s. I mean, that's the truth. But as an example, this doesn't always necessarily qualify when it comes to independent film. But like, for example, we saw this out of End of the Road the other night, and it astonished me because they had Michael Dorn and Robert Picardo, Fred Ward. In terms of whether that you call it star power or whether you call that the strength of your IP. And when it comes to independence, I know that word IP doesn't always necessarily come into play. But I'm just going to use it as a blanket statement: the strength of your IP. As an example.
Intellectual property.
As an example, there was a project that was handed to me by a screenplay writer that I was working with, and he wasn't sure what was going to happen because this thing could have been a monstrosity. And I ended up meeting a gentleman named Anthony Marmol, and he is the guy that was the whistleblower on the Cuban Missile Crisis. He alerted us to that. He was partially part of the Bay of Pigs. Whole scenario. Storyline of material from like 1963 all the way to 2007. This gentleman for the last 10 years, with other screenplay writers he's worked with, has 42 screenplays, literally created. So he's been trying to work on this project, and the first thing when we sat down is I said, yes, I'm working with these studios, and I have to see what you have, and I don't know if it's something that I can work on, but you realize they're going to take over, and he's like, no, they're not taking no control. This is mine, okay? And he's Cuban, and he was very passionate about no. And I said, and I'm like, I don't think this is going to be possible because what you're after, I'm not sure. One, that I could do this for you, and two, it's not going to happen this way.
So what you're saying is, should you say no or should you say yes?
Right. So
with the control.
Correct. So what I said was the only thing I could do is I have a random wild card. It just happens to be random, and it's part of what I in my humble opinion is one of the strongest strengths you could have as a filmmaker: networking. Okay?
Yeah.
And without networking, there's nothing. When people ask me, what do? I say, I'm a networker. That's really, in the end. I just happen to be fortunate enough that my wife's parents live next door to Andy Garcia's mother. So I walked over, asked, would you like, this is a woman that's played with my children. So I said, listen, there's a project that I have. Can you please talk to your son? I know this is hard, this is stupid, but it's about, Anthony Marmol, and she just yelled out what they call him in Cuba. And I said, yes, that's him. And she's like, he knows him, they've been talking, yes, she scheduled a call, and now he wants the project, and he brought in Al Pacino. So we took it to HBO and said, look, here's the project, but, if you want this project, he wants first right review, which is usually what you don't get as a creator. And I mean, you'd imagine coming to someone like HBO. George R. R. Martin is fortunate to get one episode to write for Game of Thrones.
That's right.
Literally fortunate to get one. And he has nothing to do with all that. It's get done. Jeff Lindsay for Dexter. None of Dexter is based on his book. It's all the first season is on the first book. Everything else is based off of that. The other books don't even come into play. He has nothing. He basically, it was, excuse the language, fuck you, pay me. Thank you, go do whatever the fuck you want. I'm gonna go chill in Miami, throwing quarters on the beach and letting big-breasted women pick that shit up for me because I don't care. That's literally it. So there's those folks, and then there's the folks like you gentlemen that do not want their IP destroyed. They don't want they want to control it exactly. So this gentleman is saying
working within the system.
Well, right, you're working within the system. I apologize. I don't mean to make assumptions. Excuse me. But and so based on the strength of this IP, this is like material that Obama himself just gave a letter saying, yes, now you can talk about this. This is declassified.